Welcome to DERGEL Executive Network Podcast. Joining me today is my longtime friend and experienced CHRO, Joe Sangregorio. Joe and I have known each other for probably 10 years now, almost, and have had the opportunity to speak with him, learn from him, work with him. Every phone call with Joe, I always learn something new. He's a solid individual who I'm very happy to have an opportunity to share some of that wisdom with you today. Joe, welcome to the DERGEL Executive Network Podcast.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you for the kind words. Yes, believe it or not, it's been a little over 10 years now that we've gotten to know each other. And I can reciprocate as well. I enjoy talking to you, and I've gained a lot of knowledge. And more than anything else, have gained a great friend as well. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you. So you've been in human resources, as you've said, from the time where it wasn't called human resources. I'd love you to start there if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, a milestone is coming up, Samuel. June 1st, I will be celebrating my 43rd year of practicing what we now call human resources, employee and labor relations. June 1st, 1982, was my first day on the job. And it was not called human resources or employee and labor relations. It was called the personnel department. It was industrial relations. I studied political science and industrial relations as far as my undergraduate work. With all intentions of going on to law school. Employment and labor law was something that I really wanted to pursue. And really going down that path. Back then, took the LSATs, applied to law school, got accepted to law school. But I guess the first major life decision I had to make was that senior year when my parents said, congratulations, but there's no more money left for education. You're on your own. If you want to go on to law school for 3 more years or get your master's degree or whatever you want, it's all on you. And I'm like, oh, okay, what should I do? I was determined to go to law school. I said, but maybe 3 more years of school is not the thing for me right now. Maybe getting into debt is not the thing for me right now. So I said, if I don't find something by the time I graduate, I'll go on to law school. I was ready and prepared to do so. But I had gotten really interested in this aspect of industrial relations and connected with a couple of folks and spoke to someone. He was in retail, Macy's actually, and said, you know what, we can kind of do something there where we have an environment. It is the personnel department, but you can get into training, you can get into employment, you can get into the legal aspect, obviously not as an attorney, but there's a lot of people things going on, and it sounds like something you may want to do. Would you like to explore it? And I said, yes, interviewed and was accepted. And at that point, my thoughts were, let me see how long this takes me. Let's see where we go from here. And then maybe you could always go back to law school. You could always do a lot of other things. Well, Samuel, I never turned back. I did continue with further education, but more not on the law side. Graduate certificates at Cornell and University of Michigan in employee labor relations, mediation. So I kept that legal piece of the interest always there, but really started to move forward. But it was a whole different world back then. And that was the start of my career.
Very interesting. So I think it would be fair to say that a lot has changed over the last 43 years. And many people who be listening to this may have some appreciation for what's been happening, but let's talk about the next 20 years in what's now known as HR, that will be known as something else in 20 years from now. What do you see changing?
Yeah, and you have to really go back to that day one, because there are some things that just those getting into human resources now, or those that have been in it, as you said, the last 20 years on a go-forward basis, or their careers. I mean, I have a staff of 70 employees worldwide. And when I sit and talk to them, I realize that probably half to 3/4 haven't even been alive 43 years, let alone working 43 years. Mm-hmm. And they don't look at me as to what was going on back then. But the first and most important thing is personnel. We were order takers, okay? But there's a reason for that. There was no such thing as FMLA, ADA. ERISA was just brand new at that point. There was no E-Verify or I-9s. It was a whole different world. It was an order-taking world. We hired people. We trained people. The joke was that we were the party planners, right? We created, had great parties and events and so forth and so on.
And the parties have changed in the last 40 years. Just saying that. Okay, we can move forward.
Absolutely. But our role was more administrative. Our role was to, have tasks to be complete, which was great. Yes, there was a people element of it, but it was more task oriented. Train X number of people, hire X number of people, work through paperwork, administrative scenario. That was the personnel department. But then it changed. And that's where that whole human resources aspect came in. We transitioned from order takers to first strategic partners. And I'm going to give you an element that I've noticed that sometimes people forget. Yes, a strategic partner. So now we were there trying to help and advise and counsel. And as these elements of the regulatory piece, the legislative piece, I said ADA and FMLA and all those things there, the organizations needed guidance and counseling. And that's where we provided, still to an element of administrative, but really more to drive, the proper opportunities, right? And then L&D, learning and development, which was then training and development, started to take hold too. Now we're looking at career pathing. Because what happened when I started, Samuel, and you probably remember, you were probably a child yourself 43 years ago, but you remember.
I was here.
You remember that, you got a job, you stayed there forever, you worked forever, you put your head down. Hopefully one day somebody would recognize your work and then you would get promoted and so forth. But there was no real thought of career pathing as much or learning and development or improving your skills. And then human resources took on a role that has now been true and is going to stay that way and even enhance itself with a variety of scenarios that popped up. There were elements that as the economy changed and as the workforce changed where people were not looking to stay forever. So retention became a big issue, right? And how do we keep our employees and what do we do to help our employees? And gradually human resources, and I'm not going to get to the part yet where we got a seat at the table. That took a long while to get there. But at least we were starting to become those advisors in that council. We started to take this role where we were sitting on a wall or on a fence. And one side of that wall were employees, and we had to be employee advocates, and we had to look at employee relations, right? And we had to ensure that employees were content. And then you got into the analytics of compensation and total rewards and benefits and things of that nature, because that's what we were there for. But the other side of the wall is the business. And we also had to be business advocates, which couldn't give away the store either. And that's where we then became true strategic partners, business partners, and trusted advisors. That's the role. I mean, that's my role right now as a CHRO. I've been a CHRO for the last 17 years out of those 43 years. And the least of what I do is HR work.
Right.
I'm there to be the trusted advisor of the executive team and the CEO and the board as well, right? To really be sitting on that fence and ensuring that we still have enough to keep the employee advocacy, right? And keep employees entrenched in the organization, but still looking out for the business. And that's becoming a business partner. Our role is to drive the business forward, both from the employee side and the business side. By the way, there's no other discipline or function in any company that has that split obligation. Finance is always looking at the numbers and the bottom line, as you know, right? And whatever we could do, cost-cutting measures, whatever it is, yes, we care about people, but there's always a but in there. Operations is we got to get the product out. Engineering is we got to have the technology. IT is there. Legal is always looking to make sure that no one's getting sued and anything else. But that but is never there when it comes to the employee side of it. Now, unfortunately, sometimes they just say, well, why don't we just toss it over the wall and let HR take care of that? That's not really our role. Our role is to be a business partner to all of the functions and to the organization. And that's what's going to continue going on. COVID brought that to the limelight. You and I spoke a lot during COVID.
I remember our conversations in February 2020.
It was eye-opening. And one thing I remember more so during COVID was started every meeting with myself and the HR team providing an update on what to do, what was going on, where are we going, what do we need to do. Right? You had employees who couldn't come into work. We had childcare issues. You had vaccination concerns. We were a government contractor. Do we force people to do this, that, and the other thing, as you remember, just constant. And then I'll never forget a board meeting, one of the first board meetings in 2020, where we were number one on the agenda, right? Not finance, not the P&L, But HR was number one on the agenda. I've always had a place on the agenda, right? But, it was a comp committee or it was some other scenario somewhere down the road. But we were the first ones. And one of the board members looked at me and said, wow, we used to tell you what to do, Joe. Now we're asking you what to do.
Right.
That's where we evolved from not only a seat at the table, but really being that trusted advisor to the board, to the organization. And that's what we're going to continue doing because we have more issues. Now it's not COVID maybe to that degree, but it's the geopolitical economic environment of the world. It's other initiatives, regardless of whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. And human resources and the role I play from the CHRO standpoint is moving further and further away from the tactical administrative piece. Because, by the way, anyone can do that. You can outsource it. AI will do it for you without a problem. It's that business advisory, trusted advisor role that's going to be more and more compounded and looked upon from a human resources standpoint.
Right. So I've introduced you and your career. I'd like to introduce the company that you work with to the people that are listening. Curia, what is it? What does it do? And what are some of the issues that you're facing now as a global organization?
Right. Well, Curia is a pharma life sciences CDMO, contract manufacturing discovery organization, right? We are built as an end-to-end service provider. Not every CDMO is an end-to-end service provider,
right.
But we start with development and discovery, where organizations, whether it be big pharma, whether it be the government, or whether it be universities, want us to discover, develop small or large molecules for a particular purpose. And then we go into analytical services to provide, the analytics for that. From there, you move to manufacturing, right? We produce APIs, advanced pharmaceutical ingredients, components as part of a drug, whether it is a solid pill or whether it is an injectable. And then we also have what is the final drug product. So the final drug product is in its final form, be it in a syringe or be it in a pill or from that standpoint. So that's the end-to-end service we provide. But it is life sciences, so it's cancer treatment. It is those types of scenarios there. Our tagline is from curiosity to cure, right? So curiosity is that development discovery stage to cure where we can provide a final drug product. And our purpose and our mission is to improve and extend patients' lives. You will never see anything with the Curia label on it. We're not Merck. We're not J&J. We're not Lilly. Those are our customers. But when you look at products that they have, we have either components, lipids, small molecules, APIs that we provide to them, or we fill their vials or their final drug product for them. Our logo here, we created our values around that: curiosity, urgency, respect, integrity, and accountability, which is actually the acronym for our name. We did not create the values first. The name came first, but then created that as the Curia way because that's what we believe in. That's how we. One thing we were really proud of is that during COVID, 98% of our employees went to work every single day, regardless of what was going on in the world, regardless of what was going on in their own world, meaning personal lives and so forth. They went to the manufacturing sites. They went to the labs. Those employees that could work remotely, more corporate level type folks, yes, did. But 98% of our employees went to work every day, and we can proudly say that we were part of the COVID solution. And now we continue on.
What are some of the people/business challenges today in a global company like yours?
Well, first, the people challenges are always what we started talking about before. Trying to keep employees to be satisfied, be happy, be content, and want to stay with you, right? Our work is not easy, especially in the labs. You're dealing with high potency narcotics. You're dealing with a lot of work that has to be orchestrated, that's regulated by the FDA, the DEA. It's not easy work. Just getting, the training alone to get somebody to work in a lab, especially a sterile fill finish, takes months. And just putting a gown on, putting the PPE on, working in that type of high potency environment. So that's always difficult, right? You sit there and say, oh, it's a good paying job. And then you're like, that's a lot of work. to do. And it's very high pressure, high intensive type of work. And even in manufacturing environment is that way as well. The scientists in the lab, they're PhDs, they're chemists, they're senior scientists. That's what they do for a living. They love what they do. We're not, we have a lot of long-term senior scientists and fellows. I have an individual who I spoke to a couple of weeks ago in one of our facilities, who's a research scientist and a scientist, and has been working with us for close to day one, 30 some odd years. And he said, I haven't discovered a molecule yet, but I keep trying every day. That's dedication.
That's
right.
Wild.
Every day they're looking for something that earth-shattering breakthrough, right, that we hear about every day on the news, right? And that's what they do. They wake up every morning saying, I'm going to find that molecule or that component or that API that's going to change the world in one way, shape, or form. 35 years he has not yet found it, but he still comes to work every day looking for that opportunity.
That's really very motivating. Thank you.
So that's the balance we're trying to keep on the people side, right? We still want to get them engaged. We still want to get them there, but we do provide something for them. On the business side, right now, just like anything else, May 8th, 2025 is different than May 7th, 2025 was, and it's going to be different on, May 9th, 2025. The world changes. We're not quite sure what's going on from the standpoint of funding, right? Universities are having difficulty from a funding standpoint in the government. Big pharma, you read every day. Yeah, sometimes they're making a lot of money, but sometimes they're pulling back on that because we're not sure. Every day is a different day right now, and every scenario, we have to adapt to it from a business standpoint. We don't manufacture something and we can flip a switch, change the tool, and now we manufacture something else because it's available or needed.
Right.
Our processes, our phases are long term. And you remember the turmoil during COVID.
During COVID, yes.
Right? How could you turn around, vaccines so quickly and so forth? It proved that we could, but it still takes a while.
It was very challenging. Yes, you did it, but it's not an easy.
So that's really both the people side is the commitment and the loyalty and trying to keep people to stay and providing them the tools and resources to do so, the opportunities for growth. And on the business side, it's getting those customers. Right now, GLP-1, right, diabetes treatment, weight loss treatment is huge. Who knows what next year's product is going to be?
I've asked you questions, and you've been very liberal in sharing your thoughts and ideas and perspectives, and I appreciate it. On this podcast, what I try to do is allow my guest to ask me a question. So go ahead, Joe.
Absolutely. And you and I have spoken many times, but I'm always intrigued by the outside in look, right? Look, I've been doing this for 43 years. Now, you've been doing what you do very well for a long period of time, but you cross over industries, you cross over functions. What have you seen as the evolution, both from a people standpoint, right, an HR standpoint, and a business standpoint, that you can provide guidance to?
That's a great question. I would really say that successful companies have people as a top priority. I've said this many times. I see a company as a vending machine. When you put a coin into a vending machine, the coin is a three-dimensional object with two sides. One is heads, which is people. The other side is financial. So it's the human capital, it's financial capital. And without that coin, business is just a box with stuff in it. To get the box with stuff in it to work, you need both sides of that capital. And it's really, really key. And companies that make the human capital side a key part of their business strategy and importance in the business are those that are successful.
That is key, Samuel. You used some term that myself and the CEO had an interesting discussion was many years ago. I looked at it as there's a difference between human resources and human capital. But just like any other capital, right, you have to make an investment in it. That's what capital is. Whether it's equipment, whether it's buildings, you're making an investment, right, to help the business, help the organization. Well, that's what human capital is. That's what your employees are. And he's like, human capital, that sounds interesting. I go, well, it is your largest asset. If you think about it, right? Payroll is your largest asset.
That's your largest expense for most companies.
Your largest asset, your largest expense. And if you don't invest in it, and if you don't look at it as a priority, you do when it comes to building and equipment, don't you? You don't want equipment to get old and stale, or you have to replace it because the replacement cost is always difficult. You want to keep PMing it, right? You want to make sure that you keep the maintenance on that equipment and those buildings and so forth. Well, guess what? You have to do the same thing for your employees. It's the same concept. You have to keep investing in them. You have to keep them fresh and understanding. You want them there. You don't want them to leave. So it's the same concept, and that's key to an organization. There's so much being made right now about return to office, right? And work from home, and what do you do? And we don't care. We want everybody in the office 5 days a week. Employees are like, we don't want to do that. And I spoke to somebody, so he was talking to me and said, so Joe, here's the scenario. For 3-4 years now, I've been working remotely. Yeah, I'll get out to sites when I have to. I'll get visit customers or whatever when I have to, but I've been working remotely. Home office, it's very nice. Give me the opportunity to actually move to a better part of the country and all of these things. Now we get this edict that we have to go back into the office. So begrudgingly, I went back into the office, and I went into an office. I sat in front of my computer with my doors closed for 5 days on Zoom calls.
Right.
I said, what's the difference? And I kind of sat there and said, you're absolutely right. And he went back to his boss and said, because he was not living in the city in which the office was, he had just moved his family away from there. And he went back and said, here's what I just did. Yeah, I spent a week up here. I came in, still accomplished everything, hardly saw you, hardly saw anybody else, spent 5 days in my office in front of my computer. You had to wind up paying for my travel. You had to wind up paying for my meals. You had to wind up waiting for people to get in and out of the office, and no one did anything differently. So if you value me as an employee, I'm not going to do this every day. That's where we're at right now. So these are the types of issues that are even coming up. Forget about the business world, forget about the climate, forget about the economy. It's just, how do you look at employees? And just to say we want everybody in an office every day, is that really the right thing to do?
I think it will continue for a while. I also think that many of the companies are saying, okay, we want everybody back. Personally, I think it's a way of filtering out and reducing headcount without having to go through a RIF. But ultimately, to me, business world, especially in the United States, needs to understand that flexibility is key. And it's not just about where somebody works. We don't live in a world of business rigidity anymore. For things to be able to happen, there needs to be flexibility towards getting things done in the proper manner, in the safe manner, in the right manner. But just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean that that's necessarily the right way. To continue to be successful, businesses need flexibility, and that includes work environments.
And I'm going to say something that people may not believe. It is not generational, Samuel. It is not. Everyone's like, oh, it's generational. You know, all the baby boomers like going into an office, and all the Gen Zs don't like going. It's not. It's based on the fact that you take each individual and treat them as an individual and value them as an individual. Yes, I'm a late baby boomer. Been doing this a long time. I don't want to go back into an office. I'm doing just fine. And I know there are, others, whether it's Gen X or millennials and, Gen Z that are coming into the world. It's a combination of some like it, some don't, but it's what can we do to work together and ensure that the best scenario is there. And when you give them that flexibility, I think that makes for the right business decision for the organization. And now in today's world, and I am a perfect example, that you can work from anywhere. You literally can. I got stuck in an airport Tuesday, Chicago O'Hare, spent 6 hours in the airport, but realizing that have cell phone, have laptop, will travel. And fortunately, the United Club had a nice little comfortable booth for me to sit in. I worked from there for 6 hours. Didn't lose a beat. No one really cared where the heck I was, what I was doing. You just move on and work from wherever you can. We have that technology and flexibility. Why not utilize it?
I really appreciate having the opportunity to speak with you today, Joe. First of all, I always enjoy it, so that's just the personal side. But having the opportunity to share some of our conversations similar to some of the conversations we've had over the past. Joe, you're a great friend. I'm on the business side. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to learn from you over these past years, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do so. Joe, thank you so much for joining the DERGEL Executive Network Podcast and allowing us to share a little bit of you with our audience.
Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Very much appreciated. I've always enjoyed our trusted partnership as well as friendship. Good luck and continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy the upcoming summer and what lies ahead for all of us.
Thank you very much, and looking forward to speaking to you soon.
Cornerstone, DERGEL Cornerstone, DERGEL Executive Network Podcast by DERGEL Cornerstone.